Hey guys, Lewis here from SwapHelper.com, Nintech Corp, to give you an update on the 2002 to 2007 cluster helper. It'll allow you to run the 2008 to 2016 instrument cluster in your older Excursion or Super Duty. And the big update here, you can see, here it is mounted on top, along with the plug-and-play adapter. So it's going to be plug-and-play for all year models. We're going to give you a little bit more information on that when we get into the shop and go over everything. But for now, let's go ahead and jump in the truck and show you what it looks like. Okay guys, so now we are in the 2005 Excursion. And just in case you guys are not aware, a 2005 Excursion is extremely similar to a 2004 Super Duty. And what I mean by that is it didn't receive the updates that the Super Duty did in 2005 for the most part. Electronically, they're identical to the 2002 to 2004 Super Duties. And so this is essentially taking a look at operation in a 2002 to 2004 Super Duty, which would be the 7.3, 5.4, 6.0, 6.8, all those different engines. But essentially, we're compatible with any one of those. So what I'm going to do now is unplug the cluster, which you already saw in the opening of this video. So I'm not going to film that because it's hard to do with this particular camera and holding it and trying to unclip those connectors with one hand. So I'm going to disconnect this and then we'll go ahead and get the cluster helper connected, and we'll get this fired up. Okay, as you can see there, we've got the plug and play connector plugged in. We will have an enclosure for that when it ships. And for now, I've just got the cluster sitting on top of the steering wheel, so that makes it a little bit easier to see. So let me go ahead and get this fired up. I'm going to open the door for a second. It's pretty hot out here. So if you see any flashing, that's just an artifact of the cameras. And you'll see all the door jars work. Now, different than the 9901 is that if your truck came equipped with a VSM, the Vehicle Security Module, remote keyless entry, then you will be able to communicate all four-door individual door statuses to the cluster. So if I open the passenger door, front passenger door, it'll tell me it's that particular door. Now, these newer clusters didn't have support for a rear hatch, so on an Excursion, when you open the rear hatch, I've set it to just tell you that the driver door is ajar. And since you are the driver, you can obviously check your own door, and if that doesn't handle it, then you know it's the rear hatch on the Excursion. So let's go ahead and get it fired up. So this being a 2005 Excursion, all this information is communicated to the cluster helper via the Ford SCP bus. There's also the UBP bus and all that kind of stuff, and in the later year models they use CAN bus, and we'll get into some of that when we go into the shop and take a look at everything. But I can't really drive around with the cluster helper sitting behind the wheel because the cluster helper is mounted on top, but you guys have seen plenty of videos of the cluster helper driving around. You can get a pretty good idea what it looks like. I mean, obviously blinkers, all that kind of stuff work. Now, this having the original dash and not the column helper, you get the double click, you get the faux blink from the cluster, and you hear the relay blink. So anybody looking at doing the swap, I highly recommend you get a column helper so you get that authentic tap to pass with silent blinkers, and I think you'll really like the final fit and finish. But everything works just like it's supposed to. I mean, that's the kind of products we develop. So with that, let's go ahead and jump back into the shop. I'll explain some of what has taken so much time. I know everybody's hoping this would have dropped, a few months back, but there are a lot of things that have gone on, both on the development side and the electronics industry as a whole. And so we're going to discuss some of those things. So let's jump over to the shop and take a look at those things. you know, I said the cluster helper was mounted on top, and so it wouldn't fit very well back here, but everybody likes to see some driving footage, so I went ahead and took it off the top here and stuck it behind it. Now, if you get the flashing, it's a really annoying artifact of the cameras, and it has to do with the LEDs, and anytime you get something in front of it, it does it. So I'm going to do my best to try to mitigate that. Obviously, you can't see any of that in person. That's just the camera picking up the refresh rate on the LEDs, but so let's go ahead and try to drive it. Hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay, so I'm going to jump back in the shop now and give you an update on everything else regarding the plug and play, the headlight helper, and all that kind of good stuff. Alright guys, so we're back in the shop now, and we're going to go over a few things, but some stuff to show off here. We got some cool merch going on. We may be including these for customers that buy the whole entire swap kit, cluster helper, column helper, headlight helper, and the vent helper setup. So that'll be kind of cool. We've got some other designs on their way, but these are pretty cool for now to check out. So not for sale or anything yet. The idea is that we'll give them to customers that that buy the entire kit and setup for their swap. So let's jump into the things that people care about most: plug and play. So what we have here are the two separate plug and play setups. This is for the 02 to 04 and 2005 Excursion, because remember the 2005 Excursions carried forward from the 04 models and didn't get the updates that the 2005 to 2007 trucks, Super Duties, did. For the 2005 to 2007 Super Duties, we have this plug and play adapter, and basically your two cluster connectors will connect there. So where this gets a little bit complicated is that I've been in touch with the manufacturer of these connectors for the 2002 to 2004 trucks, and I haven't gotten an answer back yet as to whether these are still available. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say probably not. These are, and we have purchased a tremendous stock of these, so we have these in stock ready to go. But these may require doing a core program where you send in your old cluster, and basically we have to remove them from the old cluster and install them on our setup. So we'll follow with more information there on how we're going to approach that. It wasn't our preferred method, but given the sheer number of wires involved in the 2002 to 2007 clusters, because Ford decided to put so much logic and so many aspects that control the truck in the cluster, you have a ton of wires. And I just looking at the amount of support that's required, even though this might be a bit of a pain for customers to have to send in their clusters as a core potentially, or we'll see if we can buy a bunch. I've got a few options I'm working on, but bottom line is it's staying plug and play. We're not going to do any wire in options just due to the complexity and trying to cut down on support. And this makes it a lot easier, and your final install will be a lot cleaner. So there will be a cable that's included. I'm sure you saw the one earlier in the video. That one was way longer than the final production one will be, but obviously we're in the earlier stages, and so we're getting all that stuff dialed in. So basically, depending on what year model you purchase, you'll get this component based on your model. You'll get the cable that basically connects the cluster helper to the plug and play unit. These will have an enclosure, just like all our other products. I haven't got to that point in design yet because everything's not finalized here, but this will have an enclosure around it so it won't be exposed and all that. And going back to the 2005 to 2007 Super Duties, this doesn't apply to the Excursions. We have these connectors in stock, so you won't have to do anything. You'll just buy this, and this is what you're going to get, and it'll plug right into your setup, so you'll be done. Over here off to the side, you'll probably see the headlight helper. It's, you know, never been seen before, so we'll jump into that a little bit later. Some of what I want to discuss is what has taken so long. I know everybody's, come on man, where's the 02 to 07? We've been waiting. So the biggest factor, which I'm sure you guys have seen in the news, has been basically all the supply in the supply chain for electronics has been saturated. Basically, you've got automotive manufacturers with cars sitting in lots. You've got refrigerators that aren't finished; they can't ship because they're missing components. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff going on, and we are obviously impacted by that as well. Now, we have all our products in stock. We tend to carry more inventory than probably most, and so we haven't been impacted on our products that are already in production. But when it came to development of the cluster helper, obviously the 2002 to 2007 model, obviously we can't anticipate exactly which components and everything until we get farther and closer to production. Well, the processor that we had originally started building this around was not going to be available for like a year and a half. And obviously that's not going to work. So we actually had to change to a newer ARM 96 megahertz ARM Cortex processor. That required a complete rewrite of all the code. I had to change everything. It was a ton of work to move over to a different processor. And then simultaneously, I also bought out, well, in the tens of thousands of dollars worth of components to prepare for the launch of this product, because we want to make sure we have everything in stock. And now those processors are even a year plus out, but we have plenty of inventory on those in stock, ready to build this product. So that was one aspect that slowed this down. The other one is that the 2002 to 2004 trucks operate on a deprecated communications bus called the Ford SCP bus, and there's no commercial off-the-shelf IC you can purchase that'll talk that specific bus that fit our needs, consistent supply, all the things that are required. So we actually developed in-house our own Ford SCP driver, the transceiver and everything to talk to the Ford SCP network. And when we showed that video in October of last year in the black F-350, that was a 6.0 truck. And the 6.0 truck has a partial CAN implementation. And I mean, I can go on and on, but long story short, that Ford SCP driver, we really wanted to make sure we had something robust and something that worked well for this application. And so we decided to develop that in-house. And then we also went ahead, and since we were buying up components and all that, I went ahead and made sure we got everything that we need for the launch of this product for the 2002 to 2004 trucks. So 05 to 07 guys, you can get upset with the 02 to 07, I'm sorry, 02 to 04 guys as to why this has taken so long. Obviously, the 05 to 07 trucks being CAN bus, I mean, that's, really straightforward and pretty easy for us. So since you can still get processors and ICs that communicate via CAN bus, and that's all standardized and pretty easy to deal with these days. So if it was all that way, we would have rolled this out a long time ago. The other thing is that the Ford UBP network, that's actually a proprietary network that Ford developed, and that's controls a lot of aspects of the truck, like the door jars, the auto locks, the auto lights, when you hit the clicker, turning the lights on and off in the interior, and there's a lot of aspects there. We had to take time and develop everything around that as well, because again, this is a proprietary communications bus from Ford, and they don't exactly hand out information on how to do that and how to talk to it, listen to it, and respond properly and all that. So we had to work on all those things. It took longer, and then on top of that, we've had tons of responsibilities with our current products. The business is growing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I could go on all day about the challenges in trying to develop new products at this point in time. But where we are now, I want to probably take a couple more weeks, test this on a few more trucks before we open pre-ordering. The column helper, as you all may remember, we were a week or two late on delivering on the pre-order, and we also had to make a couple changes and ship some replacement pieces to customers after the launch. That's probably because we were a little aggressive on opening the pre-ordering. Everything's been taken care of, but I want to avoid something like that this time around, especially given the difficulty in acquiring electronic components right now. So I really want to make sure that this goes very smoothly. Obviously, this is going to be an in-demand product. We want to make sure that that this goes well. Okay, enough of me jibber jabbering and all that kind of stuff. Let's jump into looking at the Headlight Helper. So the Headlight Helper I've got sitting over here, it is pretty close to being finished, but I've been putting a lot more energy, and I am the sole developer here at Nintech, swaphelper.com, in the 02 to 07 cluster helper. I've got this pretty close, but it basically needs a little bit more time, a little bit more attention, but it's going to be pretty slick. So obviously it's going to do all the headlights for you. It's also going to retrofit auto lights to the trucks that didn't have it, like the 9901, or if your truck was like an XL model. And then it also, like for instance, I've got here the 11 to 16 switches, or headlight switch, and you know, it's got, you know, all the original stuff. But here's the key: is the Headlight Helper is going to provide you interior dimming. So when you press down, you will actually see the dimming action on all your interior like it was originally. Additionally, it's going to allow you to retain this switch. So if you do the double press up, it'll turn on the dome light, and then you do the double press down, it'll turn off. It's not really double press, it's actually like, if you have one, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you press down, it's like you press it softly, and you have the first press, and then the second one, the final press, and that turns on the overhead light. But the soft press, or the one press in each direction, that's going to set your interior dimming. And we may do something slick, like when the headlights are off, let this go to the brightest setting if you want. And then when it sees the headlights are on, maybe it has a nighttime setting, so if you would like it a little more dim. In the 9901 cluster helper, we kind of set that to make it a little, we lowered the brightness about 20% to make it a little easier on your eyes at night. So that's coming. It's not going to be plug and play. It is going to have some wiring involved. It's not a real complicated thing, and obviously all the wires aren't going to be the same color. We just did that for our testing purposes. But you'll have some spade connectors. It's going to be somewhat similar to the column helper, and you'll connect to each point, and then connect the headlight switch to the column helper. Of course, like all our products, all our interior products, it's going to be field upgradable via the USB port. This one as well got upgraded due to the processor shortage, so this is also going to have an ARM processor. You know, it's the latest and greatest stuff out on the market. So so we're really excited. You know, I know everybody's waited a long time. We're gonna get this done for you guys. It's our #1 priority after taking care of our current customers and our current products. And so I'm putting a lot of nights and weekends and everything we got to do to get this done. And like I said earlier in the video, I've invested a substantial amount of capital in making sure this is ready to go. So when we open the pre-order, we've got all the components on hand. Everything's ready to fabricate, and we can get you know, pretty close. So I want, and that's some of the reason I've delayed the pre-order, is I want to get this as close to going to production when I open the pre-order as possible, so that it alleviates some stress on us, and we can make sure that we deliver a product that you guys are going to be extremely happy with, like all our customers have been with the other products, like the column helper, vent helper, cluster helper, and all that. So so just hang tight, guys. If you haven't already, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the mailing list on the website. If you're a column helper customer, you will be getting a early opportunity to get in on the pre-order before the general public. So when you checked out, if you selected an 02 to 07 truck on your column helper, then you're going to get the first shot at getting in on the pre-order. So if you guys have any questions, put it in the comments, and thank you for your time.